Leonardo da Vinci is an artist from Florence, and in many ways he's very typical of artists of the time. He started his career as an apprentice to an older artist. He learned a variety of different arts: sculpture, painting, drawing, architecture as well. And this is something that most artists of the day did learn. He was unusual in the breadth of his interests. He, in many ways, was as much a scientist as he was an artist. He was interested in what made things work, how they were put together, what the secrets of nature and technology were. And in all the art that he pursued, he takes that scientist's eye. So whether he's painting the Mona Lisa and trying to work out the principles of perspective and how to represent a three-dimensional person in a two-dimensional space, or whether he's looking at a flying machine or some other mechanical invention, he's always trying to uncover the natural secrets of an object or a person or an animal or a plant in order to understand how it works, and then in order to be able to reproduce it as an artist in his own right. So he combines the scientific progress of the Renaissance as well as the artistic inspiration, all in his own peculiar genius.
Ezio and Leonardo da Vinci become friends at the start of our game, and that friendship develops and evolves over the course of the story. They balance each other out like extremely well. Their personalities are similar enough that they can get along, but different enough that each can challenge the other and encourage the other to sort of, become a better person. There's been some talk that Leonardo functions as Ezio's Q. If Ezio was Bond, then Leo would be his Q. But I'd like to think that it's more than that. They're not just people working together. They are, in fact, really close friends. Each saves the other on numerous occasions. They spend a lot of time opening up to each other and discussing their various, personal dramas and helping each other work their way through it. And so what we didn't want to do was turn Leonardo into an assassin. So he's not necessarily fully aware of what it is that Ezio's going through over the course of the story. And, he'll often be asking him a lot of questions about this. Ezio's sort of hesitant to open up to him about this because how do you tell your friend that you're essentially a killer that's going around murdering, Renaissance nobles, but it's something that Ezio has to deal with, and so over the course of the game, we'll see that sort of struggle between trying to be good friends and at the same time having to keep these secrets.
I think Ezio and Leonardo would have been friends. It was very common in this period for artists and wealthy young men to mix and to mingle with one another. Artists at this time had a lot of education. They were learning the secrets of perspective and ancient techniques of drawing and sculpting. They had a kind of classical education in their own right. And this was something that well-born young men of the time were sharing as well. Sometimes young men would actually grow up together in households. We know that Michelangelo, as a young man, grew up in the Medici palace and learned and took his lessons alongside the young Medici princes. So it was considered a kind of a noble and a good thing for artists and young men to mix and to get to know one another.
Leonardo's role in the game is he's a confidant to Ezio. He's a trusted friend at a time where Ezio doesn't seem to have many left. At the very beginning of the game, he helps him develop specific weapons. He helps him unsolve mysteries. I'm not going to get into that too deeply. And he also makes his crazy inventions that help Ezio throughout the game. Well, Leonardo was a student in Verrocchio's workshop up until 1476. And it's funny because between 1476 and 1481, there's not a lot that we know about what Leonardo did. But actually what really happened is that the Auditore family, Maria Auditore, who is a huge fan of Leonardo, used to buy a lot of paintings for him. and so many paintings that she had to have Ezio carry these paintings. So that's how they initially got to know each other. So Ezio would escort his mother to Verrocchio's workshop. They would meet Leonardo, chit chat, ha ha ha, get the paintings and leave. And in 1476, the Auditories actually patroned Leonardo to open his own workshop. So history doesn't know between 1476 and 1481 what happened with Leonardo, but what actually happened is the Auditories paid him to start his own workshop.
So sometimes Ezio and Leo will discuss the fact that Leo seems to be building, implements of murder for his good friend, and history has shown that Leonardo was not exactly a fan of either, warfare or destruction. He saw himself as a creator, as an inventor, as someone that was trying to create things to make the world a better place. And so there is this tension in that he's now building weapons for someone, and this is a guy that doesn't really enjoy building weapons. At the same time, though, he understands what Ezio's been through, because the tragedy that befalls Ezio is, a matter of public knowledge, even if Leonardo doesn't know all of the details. And eventually, he'll come to understand, what's going on. And because Leo, much like Ezio, is like a very progressive person, he lives by this, idea of like, I'm not going to judge you. And so even when things finally do come to a head, we wanted to avoid that cliche moment where, Leo would say, oh, I can't believe that, this is what you're doing, and I can't be near you, and then he goes off and Ezio has to go and find him. He just sort of listens to what Ezio has to say, processes it, and says, it's okay, I still accept you, I still consider you my best friend.
Without a doubt, his main friend and confidant would be Leonardo da Vinci. He gets to know him at the very beginning of the game, and they grow together throughout the game. We represent Leonardo very accurately in the things that have been proven accurately historically. For example, small details like he used to write and paint with his left hand are respected. Things that are numerous times documented. His personality, he was a very, very kind person. He was a very gentle and funny person, and that is represented as well.